G'day everyone, welcome back to the Cyber Minutes podcast. My name is Max and I'm joined by Flynn as always. Today we got some cool topics to go through. Namely, the Australian government has put it in law that any companies that make over 3 million AUD have to report all ransomware payments. So if they make a payment to a threat actor, they have to report it to the government. And I'm guessing also publicly, that information is going to probably be public for everyone to know. So that's an interesting one. Also, a company has made a ransomware payment of $75 million, which is the largest ever recorded. So we'll jump right into it and head back to the Australian law change. So Flynn, do you want to just go over this quickly?
The topics are quite linked, which I thought was interesting. We had the biggest ransomware payment in history. I think the one before this was in the 40 million, so it was like 45 million. So a big jump, recorded history, because, there couldn't have been cases where it was under the table. But yeah, Australian companies, so if you have an annual turnover of 3 million, this will apply to you.
Yep.
And you have to report if you make any ransomware payments. Of course, you can make the argument of, they just won't say anything.
Yep.
But if an audit happens and you find that out, you're in really, really big trouble.
Yep.
I think this was an interesting time, and because over the past couple of massive breaches in the last couple of years, Australia, there were some sort of like whispers that ransomware payments may have been made under the table. I won't mention any names, obviously.
Yep.
But there were theories around certain data breaches seeming off, and were there ransomware payments made and nobody said anything. I'm curious if maybe this is in response to that. Yep. But I think that this actually is a good sort of approach, because I'm not sure if making ransomware payments impossible is necessarily the way to go. But I think, making that public knowledge that someone did make this payment is good, because it's definitely decentivizes people from making the payment, because it looks really, really bad. Nobody wants it to know that you made a ransomware payment. But it also doesn't just completely throw companies under the bus of, if they have no other option, they can't do it.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good approach. We spoke about in the past how we didn't know if making ransomware payments completely illegal was the right approach, and I think that this is a good compromise.
Yeah, I agree. And look, it's always a shitty thing when you're forced to do anything really as a company and put in that position that makes it quite awkward. But this does a couple of things. This enforces like some level of transparency, where it's not going to be the case where a company has been hit by a breach, they have to give up all this data, and they're also making payments and communications to this threat actor, and your customers are completely in the dark. Now it's forcing some level of transparency where you're going to know about it because it's actually regulated by the government. It means that, transparency is really good, but also it kind of shines a not so good light on certain companies for paying out ransomware actors, which that's a bit more of a gray area. We don't know if it's always the thing that we've said, which is, we don't know if it's a good or bad thing to full-on ban ransomware payments, but now it paints you in a certain light if you're paying out these threat actors, which, some people may look at it and go, okay, well, fair enough, they've protected our data. But, there's also recent cases that show that threat actors will sometimes go behind your back and break their word and still, release lots of data even when you pay them. So the public is going to know about it when you're doing this kind of stuff, and this might give some incentive for companies to ensure that this isn't going to happen to them, because they know that there's going to be some public knowledge that it happens, and that's gonna hurt their reputation no matter what. So it's interesting sort of case here, and I'm interested to see what's gonna come out of it.
I think that there's not going to be many people, if they see a ransomware payment, like, it's generally going to be a bad light. I also saw an article recently, I'm not entirely sure on the figures, but I suppose earlier on, like 5-10 years ago, when ransomware gangs would hit you and you had to pay ransomware payments, there was this sort of honor among thieves, and it was good business to, if you paid a ransomware payment, to give your data back. I remember writing an assignment on it, and it was something like 1 in 10 didn't actually give the data back.
Yeah,
that's actually becoming a lot less frequent. People are actually starting to, double, triple extortion. You pay the payment. Oh, well, we actually want a bit more. cool, but we're actually going to release this on the web anyway.
Yeah.
That's becoming a lot worse. People are, I suppose that honor among thieves just isn't really there anymore.
And we've seen cases where the thieves are actually, doubling down. The thieves are stealing off the thieves, where, half of the people are getting the money and booking it with the money, and then half of the thieves are, like, oh, well, where's our money? And then they try and, pull some extra extortion. Like, there's more layers. It's more complex these days than what it used to be.
It's the Wild West.
Yeah. That's what it's being called.
I think it's a good initiative. It's hard to say completely until it's, I suppose, in place. But what's interesting, I think that it wouldn't be a problem, but because obviously a lot of the time it's not the company that's paying the ransomware payment, they go through their insurer. Yep. For people that don't know, insurers have, direct ransomware payment funds and they talk to the insurer, and insurance companies often have, ransomware gangs that they know are good actors and they know that they can negotiate with them.
Yep.
It's a really interesting topic. We'll probably go over it one day. I'm curious if by law the insurance company will have to say that they paid a ransomware, or if the parent company will have to. Well, not parent company, it's the company, the insured. Yeah. I'm sure they've thought about it. I would hope they thought about that. But it could be interesting. But yeah, I suppose around the same topic, we don't know the company yet. It was all we know is it was an American company, but 75 million, new record. Every 2 weeks we get a new record in cybersecurity.
Yeah.
Usually it's Australian. Well, not really, thankfully, but it's not Australian this time. So, American company has paid 75 million, and yeah, it's just going to keep rising. Ransomware is not going anywhere. It's such a good business model. Who knows who got this? Who could have been a massive ransomware gang? It could have been just kind of like a lone wolf, but $75 million payday is pretty nice. And I'm sure their operating costs are not very high.
No, I assume not. So yeah, $75 million, that's quite a bit of money. I suppose we'll keep everyone in the loop with where that money has ended up, who's it's come from.
Yeah, so it was from Dark Angels. The ransomware gang is Dark Angels. Yep. But also, so it was a Zscaler report, so we can link that in the description as well. Yep. But they're noticing that there's an upwards trend. The company reported an 18% year-over-year increase in such incidents. So ransomware, I suppose, payments, it's going up and up. As we said, it's not going anywhere anytime soon. There is sort of this irony that, when people pay this $75 million or any sort of ransomware payment, the incentive to then go into a ransomware gang becomes higher.
Exactly.
And because it's like an ecosystem, they keep earning more money. It's just going to become more of a problem, which is where, jurisdiction and whatnot needs to sort of step in. Like we said, the Australian one, I'm not quite aware of how it works in America, but yeah.
It becomes self-fulfilling almost because, big headlines, record ransomware payments come out. Kids see them, people who are technically proficient see them go, I reckon I can do that. Then they get involved and bibbity-bop. The next thing that happens is there's $80 million, $100 million, $200 million. Like, it just keeps going up and up and up and up and up. So,
yeah, it's a common debate among cybersecurity. Do you stay in I suppose the clean slate, working a good 9 to 5 on pretty good pay, or do you go bad actor route and get paid a ton, but you have to be looking around your shoulder 24/7 thinking,
Breaking Bad is gonna, that kind of constantly evolves over time. Not long ago it was making banned substances, and now it's hacking companies. So yeah, see how that one turns out. But we'll let you know if we hear anything. Thanks for listening. Just a reminder that the Cyber Minutes podcast is for educational purposes only. The views expressed by hosts and guests are their own, not necessarily their employers. Advice discussed is general advice. We promote ethical discussions, not illegal activities. Have a cybersecurity question? Send an email to cyberminutespodcast@gmail.com, as we'd love to answer it. Stay cyber safe.